Welcome to the latest installment of SDN Sports Scene. I'm sports editor Danny P. Smith, and Robbie Faulk, our high school beat writer, is always up on our high school news around town. And I guess the main game this week, and it seems like it's always a big game when East Webster and Calhoun City get together.
Yep, and this has been competitive some years and some years not so much, but for the most part, since Ron Price has been there, it's really been a competitive ball game, and he was able to deliver the first win in like 10 years, I think, a couple years ago when they were able to beat Calhoun City. And this is a huge measuring stick ball game for this team. They've played three teams that are in a lower classification, and this week is against a team in a lower classification, but it doesn't really add up when you look at Calhoun City on the field. That's a team that most years could compete in 3A. So undefeated Calhoun City team, undefeated East Webster team, and an East Webster team that's getting a little more healthy this week. They've been really dominant in their first four ball games against Eupora, Danawoy, Noxapater, and Baldwin last week. But this is a totally different animal. So this is a huge measuring stick game for them, and I'm really interested to see kind of where they sit, because next week they got Choctaw County. So these next 2 weeks are just crucial for this East Webster team to see kind of where they're at around mid-season.
Yeah, and we've got some teams that's experienced some adversity. Starkville High School lost their first game, and they've had some off-the-field issues as well. I'm not sure how much we need to get into on that in this video, but they got to bounce back, and they got a road trip to Oxford.
This will really kind of test their will, because we still don't know who's leading the way for them this week. And just to give the people watching this a little bit of a background, if you haven't seen, reported yesterday by WCBI first reported it that Chris Jones is going to be suspended for the ball game against Oxford. We dug into it a little further and reported that they're actually going to be missing out on several players too. I think 6 players are going to be suspended for the game, the last word that I got. And a few of those players, I believe, are going to be out for the season. We were not given any names on that, but basically there was an altercation after the ball game between the team, some of the players on the team, that has led to some suspensions, and also Chris Jones involved in that as well. He was not involved in the altercation, as far as I understand, at least not physically, but just being the leader of the team has to take responsibility for that. Right. And the suspension's coming from Starkville administration. So just tough news for them, for a team that I thought played pretty well in the ball game against Louisville. I didn't think that it was a game that Starkville should be hanging their head about. That's a Louisville team that I believe is the best team in the state of Mississippi. And it's a game that, we've talked every week about these teams in this area that play each other, and they beat up on each other. By the end of the year, most of them are playing in the state championship. So I don't look at Starkville as a team that should be thrown in the towel or should be upset or anything like that. But this is certainly going to be a tough week for them, because they don't have their leader. They don't have their head man out there leading things in Chris Jones. He'll be able to come back to the team on Sunday, but we've not been able to get up with him, to talk to him this week. So I don't know what their situation is as far as who's going to be leading their program on Friday night, but they got to turn it around this week and try to get back on track, because in 2 weeks they start district play. Right. So they got to get back on track and be playing good football for whenever they start against Germantown in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and they run that gauntlet of, seemed like a rivalry game every week. You had Noxapater County, West Point, even Meridian to a certain extent, because they played each other, and of course the Little Egg Bowl this week. So it's just seemed like one big game after another for them. Should prepare them for district.
Yeah, and Oxford is not a team that's just super talented. They're 1-3 getting off, but that's a team, if you don't come out and you're playing your best football, they can beat you. They can beat anybody in the state if they're not playing well, because they will be playing well-coached and hard-nosed football. Oxford's going to be one of the more well-coached teams in the state each and every week. So if Starkville doesn't come into that ball game well-prepared and have their heads on straight, and whoever's leading that team have them playing good football, they could very well lose that game.
Yeah.
Oxford's always going to be well coached and ready to play.
Yeah. And the season is starting to take form and take shape a little bit. Not a whole lot of teams have started district play yet. Starkville Academy has. They've already played one district game and have their second one Friday night, and it's a game that they really need because they're going to Pilla 0-1 in the district. Can't really afford to lose another one.
They can't. This is one of those deals where, the last 2 weeks have been tough. They lost to Bio, and then last week, I'm not really sure what you can take away from that. Going up against a Hartville team that is just, at this point, let's be real, Hartfield and some of those teams in the highest classification, the way that they're doing things, the way that they're building their rosters, there's teams in the MAIS that just don't want to play them because it's not fair.
Yeah.
You're not on an equal playing field. it's not just about being a classification higher. It's about the talent acquisition that they've had over there at MRA, JA, Prep, Hartfield. These teams, Starkville Academy and some of these schools, they just can't compete with that.
Yeah.
So, that's one of those you just have to kind of throw that film out and move on to the next. But that's what Starkville Academy's got to do this week. They've got to be able to kind of put all that behind them, go out there and try to win a football game against Pilla, which has been a good rival for them over the years. It's an important game for them moving forward to try to just, put Hartfield behind them and move forward. Because you won't see another Hartfield this year.
No.
So that's if you're chasing Nicholson, you got to tell your team, guys, that's the best team we're going to play all year.
Exactly. I think they've got Jackson Academy in a few weeks, but I don't even think they're on that level.
Not quite. No, they're still a really talented team, but they're not quite on Hartfield's.
But it's good to have non-district games like that to get you ready for maybe if you don't get beat up too bad, you can still survive your district perhaps. But
it's not bad to play teams that are like Alabama and Georgia, talent-wise on that level.
Yeah.
Just to to me, it's always about saying, this is not going to get any worse than this, or we're not going to play anybody more talented than this.
Right.
When you're able to kind of use that perspective, I think it helps.
Yeah. But definitely the district games matter, and we'll see if Starkville Academy can get their first district win and get on the right track. And Mississippi State's on the road this week playing number 1 Texas team, 3:15 on Saturday. This team just needs to try to keep everything together and just to try to piece some good moments after good moments against some of the best teams in the nation.
Yeah, you're talking about if Georgia goes to Alabama this weekend and they win that ball game, there's a very good chance that they jump Texas in the rankings to number 1. There's an opportunity for State to play number 1 2 weeks in a row, and I don't know how often that's ever happened. But this is, it's going to be a very difficult season for Mississippi State.
Yeah.
When you look at what they have coming up on the schedule, which, we're trying to talk about Hartfield, I don't know if it's going to get any tougher for Mississippi State than the possibility of playing 1-1 in back-to-back weeks. But it's kind of one of those deals this year. You just have to take any kind of positives you can take from it if you're Mississippi State. Try to stay together. Try to get some of these young guys some playing time. Michael Van Buren is now taking over at quarterback with the loss of Blake Shapen, which was a very difficult loss for a Mississippi State team that was already going to struggle. Now you have a true freshman starting at quarterback. In my lifetime, I don't know if I've seen more adversity than what Mississippi State's going to have to face. I thought 2020 was up there, but this is probably going to be the most adversity this program has faced in over 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Mississippi State players, coaches, and especially the fans, because fans are asked to do more now than ever before in college athletics. So this is going to be a very difficult rest of the season for this team and this program. But the important thing for Jeff Lebby is he's got to take some kind of positives from this, get the young guys playing time, allow those guys to kind of develop a little bit and prepare for next year. That's kind of where you're at right now.
Right. Well, I'm old enough to remember that 1-10 season where they beat Louisiana Tech and didn't win another game. I'm hoping we're not headed toward that.
Yeah.
You just never know. But, this team just has to put together some as many positive things as they can to build off of and hopefully enter next season ready to roll. But that's all our time this week. But got a lot of good good things to talk about in the football world, and we'll keep monitoring it, and we'll be back next week to look ahead to the next round.